Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adam Levine, and I am Executive Director here at the New York Metropolitan Transportation Council, or NYMTC. As the Downstate Region's Metropolitan Planning Organization, NYMTC provides a collaborative forum to address transportation-related issues and develop regional plans for our members' shared vision for the transportation network that connects New York City, Long Island, and the Lower Hudson Valley. You can find out everything you may want to know about the great work we do by visiting our website at www.nimtec.org. But that's for later. Right now, let's get to why you're all here. I thank everyone for participating in today's Brown Bag webinar. Please note that this presentation is eligible for one certification maintenance credit from the American Planning Association. You can find more information about this in the chat. If you could also please take a moment to let us know in the chat where you're calling in from, that would be much appreciated. Today we have a presentation from 3 of our Suburban County members about some exciting and innovative initiatives going on in their transit systems. Our first presentation will be from Putnam County on their coordination efforts for a small system microtransit pilot. Barbara Barossa, the county's Commissioner of Planning, Development, and Public Transportation, will be presenting with support from Vincent Tamagna, the county's Director of Transportation, and John Tully, the county's Director of Purchasing. They will be followed by Chris Chatterton, Director of Transportation Operations for the Suffolk County Department of Public Works. Chris's presentation is titled Reimagine Transit and Other Initiatives for Suffolk County. Lastly, we will hear from Craig Lader, Director of Transportation Planning for the Westchester County Department of Planning. Craig will be providing a status update on Westchester's mobility and transit plan. There will be an opportunity for questions following the presentations. Please type your questions into the WebEx chat box, and we will address them during the Q&A portion towards the end. I will now hand the virtual microphone over to Barbara Barossa from Putnam County. Barbara?
Hello, my name is Barbara Barossa. I'm here with Vincent Tamagna as well as John Tully. You advance to the next slide, please. I'd like to introduce, basically give a little history of Putnam County and background. We are located north of New York City, about 1 hour. We're a smaller suburban county. We're less than 100,000 people total population as of the 2020 census, with 38,713 households. We are comprised of 6 towns and 3 villages. We have no cities. We do have 2 train lines from the Metro North Railroad that run into and provide service to our area. So we do have a lot of commuters within our community. We have no airport, and we do operate a public transit system that's called the Putnam Area Rapid Transit.
I'm Vinny Tamagna, and it's great to be presenting with you. I want to start out as well by thanking NYMTC, Adam Levine, Maura, and Fidel for their support and help in planning this. And also it's great to be joined by our partners, Suffolk and Westchester County. And so I'll start a little bit by talking about how we got to even thinking about demand response, right? So I'll give you a little bit of a background on our area, Putnam Area Rapid Transit and our system. I know that some of these statistics are the same statistics that we're experiencing across the region and really across the nation. So, PART operates the 4 fixed routes year-round, and we also have a seasonal trolley in Cold Spring. As Barbara mentioned, on the east side of the county, we have the Harlem line, on the west side, the Hudson line, and so we are, basically a suburb of New York, and people commute out of Putnam County to get to work in big numbers. So we also operate, of course, a paratransit, our origin to destination system as part of our transit, of course, mandated by FTA. And one thing that I want to say here, and it's very important, I was down in DC and had a chance to talk with Nuria Fernandez, the FTA administrator. And one of the things that we should always lead with, and we try to do that here in Putnam County, certainly our county executive, Kevin Byrne, uses this as his philosophy as well. But to make our North Star equity whenever we make decisions in transit, that's really a critical thing. So if you look at the chart here, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 5 are 4 routes. You'll see that part 3 is a real outlier. None of them are performing, at a level that you would have in a metropolitan city. But for a suburb, I'll take part 1 and part 5. So we started to think about what can we do to get that part 3 $51.93 a ride, which is just unsustainable. And the number of people that we were serving wasn't really serving, and we weren't leading, again, with equity as our North Star. Next slide, please. So just quick, our ridership is you can see not huge, but again, we're a small county. You got the dip, as we all saw with COVID, and slowly regaining. We're at 80,000, and we still have a ways to go before we get back to where we were with COVID. And again, not such a surprise because this is also happening across the nation in most transit systems. Next slide, please. So this red bar represents part 3, and the blue bar is the average. And as you can see, again, this was the justification when I went to County Executive Byrne and asked him to consider doing a pilot. I think, this is not a great use of our funding, and it's something that, he totally agreed and supported. So we're very grateful. Next slide, please. Again, the ridership at only a little over 5,400 people, and the cost was $51.93 a mile. We have the same 18 people basically riding this, and we could do a better job as we're spending $280,000 to run an empty bus, and you'll see the route on the next slide, please. Fixed route service, again, is great in metropolitan areas, but in suburbia, Putnam County, and other places like ours, there is an application for demand response that we believe will work, and that's what we're trying to test and try out with this first pilot. Also, I want to remind everybody of the context of the last mile, and that is in places like Putnam County, where we do have the Hudson and the Harlem line. It's great, people can get around, but that last mile to get from where they are with public transportation to get to their home is really often a real struggle and even unavailable. So provision of travel service from the nearest public transportation mode to home or another destination is critical as we're looking at demand response in Putnam County. And what we're hoping to find is that demand response in Putnam County is the geographic and demographic solution to better serve the public. So more convenient, more people. We anticipate many more people than what we're doing right now on the Part 3 route. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of critics of microtransit. In a recent City Lab perspective titled On Demand Microtransit Can't Escape a Big Problem, Mr. Zipper, who is an economist, said that it doesn't give the opportunity to offer the economies of scale that you get on the bigger system. And I agree with David Zipper. I think that you have to look at what he said in the article. In LA, big city, a lot of people, microtransit costs the passengers $1, but is a $42 subsidy. So say that's even $43. Right now on Part 3, we're paying over $51, close to $52. So in Putnam County, there's a justification, and you could really make sense of this. Next slide, please. So this is the current route, Part 3. It just does a really big loop around. And I think the next slide will show a little bit more. Next slide. So that's the same loop. The red, the purplish blue is the buffer zone, and the pink is the geofence that we're saying that we want to put in this pilot project. You can see that it also includes, the geofence also includes part of our other system. And I think when this is established and this is turned on, we're going to cover very many more people. The pink areas right now, because of the 3/4 of a mile federal paratransit, that's where we pick up. That's the blue. The pink area is where we don't pick up. And so we will be able to incorporate a lot more of those riders that are disenfranchised from any transit right now and become more efficient, drive more people to public transit. And again, we're doing a much better job at that last mile because we're linking with 2 train stations, Southeast and the Brewster North train station. Next slide, please. So, this is kind of what it looked like. If we take a look at population that we're going to cover in the geofence, the percent of car-free households, the percent of single-car households, that's a big number, and also a lot of seniors who maybe could drive but no longer drive, who have issues right now, who feel isolated. And in fact, our health department came up with a statistic. It's really one of the top 3 health issues right now is that isolation feeling, especially from our 65 and older community. This is estimated demand could be up to 70 to 90 rides a day with a 15-minute wait time. Again, maybe 4 vehicles. We're not sure. And we're hoping to learn a lot as we get the RFP out, responses back in the very near future. We're looking to launch this in June, July of 2024, if all goes well. And of course, there's a whole lead up to it to make sure that we do adequate marketing and education of the public and do all of the things that we need to do in advance of launching a demand response zone in Putnam County. Next slide, please. This is on a procurement side. John and I went down to APTA, and I'll let him speak to where we are.
Thank you, Vinny. And good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with Commissioner Barosa and Director Tamanya to talk about how we got to the procurement side of this and the steps that we took in getting here. I'd like to, just for the sake of the procurement, as Vinny mentioned, we are in the midst of an active solicitation. So if you would allow me just an opportunity to give a brief disclaimer to any vendors or potential proposers that may be listening into this conversation, is that despite anything that is said here today, we ask that you follow the formal procedure in our solicitation. If you have any questions, please submit them in writing as directed in the solicitation, and we will respond in kind so that all vendors, those who may not be on this presentation today, hear the responses in a similar fashion. So as Vinny mentioned, and maybe one more thing I'll just add is that those of you, there's several of you on here that I'm very familiar with, and I know you from my role as the Administrative Director of Planning, where I was essentially keeping the seat warm for Commissioner Barosa. So I had the unique distinction of being involved with Vinny in the desire to move to a demand response microtransit solution for Putnam County. To that end, Barbara was appointed commissioner, and I was reassigned to my position as the Director of Purchasing for Putnam County, and we continued to collaborate, and that was extremely important. There was an awful lot of factual evidence, evidence that Vinny shared with you in some previous slides that indicated that this would be the right approach. So with that factual evidence, the intuitive concept that demand response was a direction that we should go in, we began what we would call like a market research phase. And the APTA conference really helped us solidify the direction that we needed to go. We talked to a number of providers, a number of municipalities that have already been through this process. I personally reviewed a number of different RFPs just to see, the direction and some of the things that other municipalities took into consideration. During APTA, we learned that there is the ability for some sole source procurement because of the proprietary software that's used in this endeavor. And there's also the potential for some piggybacking on other contracts to spare municipalities the timing involved in doing their own procurement. But based on all the feedback that we got and the unique makeup of Putnam County, we decided that it would be best for us to proceed with our own request for proposals. We employed a consultant to help us in that endeavor. We shared with them everything that we wanted out of it and helped craft the solicitation. Right now, the system that Putnam County operates is the result of a previous solicitation where we awarded it to the current contractor. MV Transportation is managing all the aspects of the transportation from paratransit,
Entire system.
the entire system through them. I'll wrap it up. Thanks, Vinny. So with that, we decided to, that contract expires March 31st of 2027. So it made sense for us to not do a comprehensive solicitation and to just go in the direction of a pilot, use this pilot period to determine if this is the right direction that Putnam County wants to continue with in the future. So to that end, we released our request for proposal. It's out there. It's due back on February 23rd. We're actively in a request for information period, and we're optimistic that with all of the information that we've received and the advice that we've received from the team at NYMTC and other consultants that we've talked to and vendors, that we have a good document out there, and we're hoping to have a competitive process and be happy to share the results with you through Barbara when that is completed. Thank you. Back to you, Vinny.
Yeah, that's it. Next slide. And this wraps up our segment here. So, Maura,
Thank you.
thank you very much again. And we look forward to a Q&A.
Yeah, we are looking forward to a Q&A. I'm really looking forward to that myself. I've got a couple of questions, but I'm going to hold my questions until after we get everyone's in the chat. I haven't seen too many pop in yet, so I'm going to encourage folks, if you have questions for our friends in Putnam County, please start putting them in. Also, I did see if several folks did indicate where you're calling in from. If we could have more people doing that, it would be really helpful for us to know, who the audience is, so that we can try and find out what you might be interested in for future brown bag sessions. So, but without any further delay, I want to turn the virtual microphone over to Chris Chatterton in Suffolk County. Chris, are you there?
Yes, hello, Adam. So we're gonna go to me, or are we gonna take the Putnam questions?
No, we're gonna do. I think we're doing all the questions at the end, I thought, or is that if I'm misunderstanding that, I do apologize. But
That's
I thought,
correct. All at the end.
yeah, all the questions at the end. So yeah, if you could put them in the chat, we'll get back to questions at the end. So Chris, if you could take it from here, that'd be great. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Adam, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Chatterton. I'm the Director of Transportation Operations for Suffolk County. I'm going to present to you on our Reimagine Transit and some other initiatives that the county has undergone. There we go. So, for those of you that don't know, the county has undergone a massive effort, kind of a historic effort to redesign our fixed route bus network, which has been untouched for many years. So we've engaged in a comprehensive planning and outreach effort in order to figure out where transit should operate, how often it should operate, basically starting from a blank slate. So I will take this opportunity to thank NYMTC and the UPWP process. We were able to utilize roughly $500,000 of UPWP funding towards consultant costs in this effort, which has, developed a great product for us that we launched on October 29th of 2023. Leading up to that, we had some prior studies, a overall Suffolk County mobility study, which led to the implementation plan that we had developed. Once we got that on board, there was a lot of community outreach. We had an advisory group for the project with a lot of stakeholders, and we developed a final new network in 2023, the beginning of 2023. It was finished, taking into account all of the feedback we had received and adding in some service where, we had received the most feedback on. So let me take you back to where we started, prior to October 2023. This was our fixed route network. So it consisted of 42 fixed routes, which served, throughout the county in a generally coverage-based system. As you can see on the map, the color-coded map here, the vast majority of the routes here are colored in dark blue, or the lighter blue color indicating a 60 or above headway. So we were providing service to a lot of different areas. We weren't providing particularly useful service to many people. Only a few routes had a 30-minute midday headway. So we were taking a look at some of the trends from the old network. As you can see, we hit the peak ridership in about 2011 with over 6 million riders, and since then it has been steadily declining, as well as productivity in looking at trips per service hour. So we decided that we needed to come up with a plan to address the decline in ridership, make sure we're using our dollars most efficiently, and get a system that riders will be more likely to utilize. So when designing the new system, we have a lot of new features now. We're starting earlier service, so 5 a.m. Is when the routes will start on the weekdays, and until 10 p.m. Full weekend service. So before, only 12 out of the routes ran on Sundays. So now there's no guesswork. All of the routes are running 7 days a week. And also, I might add, 365 days a year, which is another new service that we're offering. We used to be totally not in operation on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and ran some other holidays on a reduced schedule. Other important features of the new network we developed are these timed connections. So we made a point to have the routes meet up at certain key transfer points so that people can continue their journey, make transfers, because Suffolk County is very large and often will require transfers. But in doing the schedules, the old schedules we had were not reflective of the actual travel times it took to complete travel. So they were, we had poor on-time performance in the old system, which we looked to address with the new routes and then make sure that they time together. And the key feature here, half-hourly service on most routes, as you can see. So here is our new network. So we went from the 42 fixed routes to now 24 fixed routes. But as you can see on this chart, most of the colors are now red, indicating that half-hour frequency, and only a few of the routes now are hourly. This is what the new network looks like. On the weekends, it's all of them except we are cutting back to hourly on the weekends. We have some metrics we'd like to share about the new network according to the demographic analysis we've done. So you can see that there is an increase of over 50% of jobs accessible within 60 minutes for all residents, and these have been especially effective towards residents of color, low-income residents, and households without cars. So they are seeing great improvements in the number of jobs that are accessible to them through the bus network within 60 minutes. On-demand transit zones. So we will be speaking a little bit more about microtransit later in the presentation. We have not yet launched the second zone, but it is a key feature of the new system, which will be launching in the next few months. As we talked about, the extended weekend and extended service hours and weekend service. If you can see on the bottom here, just talking about people near some level of transit service, it went down a little bit because we're going from a coverage-based system to a more ridership-focused model. But you can see that the people within a half mile of high-frequency routes has grown significantly, which is the useful service that people will be more likely to use. Another chart here which shows how many people are near, the different types of service that we offer. And something I'm very glad to report here. So we've been operating it since October 29th. Our early returns in ridership are very positive. So in all, in November, we were up over 11% over 2022 levels, and December, we were up over 15% in ridership over 2022 levels. I will couch this by saying we had a 6% growth in ridership from January through October of 2023, so I can't attribute all of these gains to the new system, but you can see that they're much greater than that average of 6% that we had throughout the year. We're continuing to monitor and get feedback on the new system. We'll be putting out a ridership survey, which is, I believe, just about ready to launch, and going to continue monitoring ridership and other advanced performance measures to ensure that the system, is operating as we had designed, making small tweaks here and there, based on what we've heard from the public. So after, this is kind of a whole mobility discussion here, so I'd like to include a portion on our microtransit service. We've been operating the microtransit in the town of Southampton since 2021. So this is the original zone that we had developed. It replaced a low-performing fixed route, the 10A bus route, which ran here in Southampton. This is our service area now that is open, and it is now operating 7 days a week. Here we can see the growth in ridership year over year from 2021, where we only operated about half the year, much greater in 2022, even greater in 23. So we're happy with the trends we've seen in ridership. We've definitely seen a decrease in the cost per ride when compared to the fixed route, as well as an increase in ridership overall. Here we can see on the east end of Long Island, we have on the Southampton area, and then to the east, our new proposed East Hampton and Montauk area. So here's another zoom in of that area. This is actually the area which was served by the 10B and 10C bus routes, which were other routes that, you know, had a high cost per rider and low efficiency. So we believe that this, you know, spread out area with the less dense population is an ideal case for microtransit and to give people better service, you know, without a fixed route that is not very efficient. We're also working on the west end of the county on a new microtransit zone. This is funded in through the New York State's new program, the Innovative Mobility Program, which focuses on microtransit services. They'll be giving us $1 million over a period of 5 years. This area was previously served by the S56 bus route. So we've been hearing a lot from certain populations in this area that, you know, they really want service, but we really can't justify operating a fixed route in this area. So thanks to the new funding from New York State, we're glad to be able to roll out this new area as soon as we finish some planning with our microtransit service provider, VIA. I believe that is all I had for our presentation today. Thank you, everybody, and I look forward to hearing about Westchester as well. I was really glad to hear all the stuff going on in Putnam, and if anyone needs to reach out to us regarding our microtransit efforts, we're happy to share our findings.
That's a really great presentation, Chris. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I'll echo one of the comments. It's great to see that the bus ridership is going up, especially after the launch. That's really good news. So I'll again encourage folks to put questions and comments into the chat. We are going to get to those at the end after our next presentation. And so I'll lead right into that right now, and we'll hear from Craig later at Westchester County. Craig.
All right, thank you, Adam. Good afternoon, everyone. Just let me start my screen sharing. Just let me know, please, if you don't see the screen entirely. I have to just change some settings here, and I'll be set in 1 second. All right, we should be in good shape right now. So I just want to start by thanking Adam and the NYMTC staff for organizing this brown bag and allowing us to present an update on Westchester County's mobility study and transit plan. I also want to thank my co-presenters, and I also want to thank Alana Wagner, Principal Transportation Planner and Project Manager for this study, who assisted with the development of the content which I'll be providing. And I also want to acknowledge Naomi Klein, who, as my predecessor, was a driving force behind this project and previously presented the study at a NYMTC brown bag at its early stages in 2021. So today I'll just do a walkthrough of how we conceived of the study, how we performed it, and arrived at the suggested plan that emerged. We'll then talk briefly about how the proposed changes will impact passengers of the county's B-Line bus system and our next steps as we look to implement it. And then I'll look forward to any questions that anyone may have. I'd be remiss if I didn't note that this NYMTC UPWP funded study was conducted by Nelson Nygaard, who we work with to develop our suggested plan elements that were both visionary and also practical and feasible. So speaking of NYMTC, I just want to touch upon how this study dovetails with moving forward and the regional transportation plan shared vision for regional mobility. So this project wasn't merely a bus redesign, but it was a multimodal mobility study that took into account the many ways in which people move both entirely within Westchester and between our county and other parts of the region. With a baseline of about a quarter of B-Line passengers starting or ending their trip outside of Westchester County, most of which who transfer to New York City Transit, the B-Line bus system is really integral to regional mobility. And although the system currently has various services that connect to Metro North, the study aimed to strengthen them and revisit how they occur. Yet, the simple reality was that it was long overdue to perform a study of this nature. The Beeline system as it exists today is largely unchanged since it first became a network in the 1970s when it came together through the consolidation of numerous privately owned routes, and it has not been holistically assessed since then. Over this time frame, Westchester County has seen tremendous growth in employment to the extent that half of our workforce both works and lives here, which has had major impacts on both commuting patterns and development patterns. For example, the previously in vogue corporate office parks that dot the I-287 corridor and are served by our shuttle service that connects to the White Plains train station have fallen out of favor and are now in many instances being converted into mixed-use developments. Also, the nature of retail has changed with the decline of malls such as the White Plains Galleria that recently closed and is now the subject of a major redevelopment plan. Simply put, the Beeline system needs to keep up with these changes. So this study was aiming to account for changes to the public transportation system that have occurred in recent years. And though I'm not specifically talking here about COVID, as most of these changes began prior to 2020, the pandemic has brought to light how important it is to build a system that is flexible and responsive to evolving trends, and to take advantage of emerging technologies and use them in manners to better meet mobility needs in innovative ways, and perhaps to do so by using resources more efficiently. So let's talk about how we actually conducted the study. The first task was to establish the mobility plan's goals. We wanted to try to achieve a number of things. We sought to aim to serve today's riders better with more frequent service that runs for longer hours. While our highest frequency routes began as early as 5 a.m. and operate through 1 a.m., most run with shorter spans of service and have headways that fall short of being considered frequent, which we consider to be at least every 15 minutes. We also wanted to improve reliability and simplify service offerings. Stabilizing or even growing ridership is a goal. Like most bus systems, even pre-pandemic, we have seen a decline in ridership since 2014, when our average daily ridership exceeded 100,000 passengers on weekdays. And we seek to reverse that trend at this point, as it is now closer to about 80,000 daily weekday passengers. We also are looking to offer equitable options for those who rely on public transportation, especially important for us given that the vast majority of Beeline passengers are made up of low-income transit-dependent populations. And we want to promote access to economic opportunity, as we do consider Beeline to be an economic engine for the county. So the study included a comprehensive analysis of existing conditions, which included a very detailed analysis of Beeline system performance. Since our fleet is fully equipped with automatic passenger counters, we had extensive data allowing us to analyze the system from a network perspective and on a route by route and even stop by stop basis, and to visualize the data in an easy to understand manner. Existing conditions also included a transit market assessment and look closely at travel patterns, in addition to census data to better understand demographics and allow us to map out where transit propensity is highest in the county. We engaged with many stakeholders throughout the process. A dedicated project website was created in which interested parties could subscribe to, and comments were able to be submitted. In fall of 2020, we held more than 15 virtual sessions with stakeholders, including municipal planning representatives, major businesses, educational institutions, hospitals, hotels, shopping centers, and advocacy groups. A public survey resulted in more than 500 respondents, including about 250 Beeline passengers. All of this was used to inform our planning, and the state of the system report that summarized our existing conditions and was issued. We then entered the evaluation phase and went through an exhaustive process to consider all our options for a redesigned fixed route system. We went through many iterations with our consultant as we meticulously assessed all potential opportunities for new routes, route modifications, route eliminations, span of service changes, and other operational considerations. We also concurrently were determining where we may be able to provide better service through microtransit, especially where we currently operate low productivity routes or don't currently provide service due to lack of transit supporting densities. We then arrived with draft recommendations that we first shared publicly in the summer of 22, coinciding with a second round of outreach that included in-person meetings at numerous high activity bus stops, along with remote meetings as well. We received valuable feedback from both stakeholders and the public that we took to heart, resulting in us tweaking our recommendations before a final report was issued in March of 2023. So let's talk about the suggested plan. The plan does a number of things. It adds much needed east-west service, connections between routes at Metro North rail stations, and a new route at the very southern side of the county. East-west connections have always been a challenge given the largely north-south orientation of our county's transportation network and road network, and which was largely necessitated by topography. So improving this was really a major focus of the planning efforts. The plan provides better connections to various key destinations, including major retail destinations such as Ridge Hill and Cross County Shopping Center, and the county's Grasslands campus that includes Westchester Medical Center and other key institutions. And this will also be the location of a major mixed-use development in the not-so-distant future. The plan strengthens connections to the New York City subway and Metro North, providing passengers with new options to access the regional transit network. Again, with about a quarter of our passengers making these connections today, the importance of this aspect of the plan can't be understated. The plan also makes routes simpler, easy to understand, and more direct where possible. For example, the Route 1 of our system today has 4 branches, and this can be confusing and confound even our most seasoned passengers. Other routes that we have operate with different segments having different headways, which can also be confusing, and we seek to eliminate such traits. The plan also provides for additional service in the early morning and late evenings and on weekends. We have been incrementally improving weekend span of service in recent years to great success, and we look forward to doing so on a wider scale basis through this plan, alongside proposed increases to frequencies across the network. We also plan to add service on selected routes that today only operate 5 or 6 days a week. I want to delve a little more into this aspect of the plan a bit further. Because we are proposing reducing the number of fixed routes from approximately 60 to about 40, we have the ability to have the redesigned network operate with more trips per hour all throughout the day. This table, the tables here depict this nicely, as the recommended plan has more routes with peak level service considered frequent and more off-peak services with vastly improved headways. As I indicated, weekend service will be significantly improved as these tables demonstrate. We will have far fewer weekday-only routes, and we'll be investing in more frequent service and longer service throughout weekends. The redesigned network thus maintains coverage to the same share of residents and jobs, but it also significantly expands access to routes with more frequent service simply by increasing frequencies and span of service. This will result in more residents and workers having higher levels of service across the network. For example, during the morning peak period shown here, most residents and workers would have frequent service, and notably, about 85% of households that don't have a car would have frequent service. That's 7% higher than today. At the same time, the plan eliminates low-performing bus routes and routes which don't operate in an optimal manner. Reasons for such eliminations include low ridership, as about a third of our current routes carry fewer than 100 passengers per day, as opposed to our busiest routes that exceed 5,000 or even approach 10,000 daily passengers. Also, overly lengthy routes that are both inefficient and have excessive travel times that aren't conducive to passengers are being looked at, as is a potential elimination of routes that are redundant. And then finally, the plan introduces microtransit across numerous proposed zones. Such zones are proposed to either replace inefficient commuter routes that serve as feeders to Metro North, serve lower density areas where existing routes that use standard sized buses have been particularly underproductive, or where the B-line system has not recently been operating, and also to run in areas that we believe have potential underlying demand to support transit, and where microtransit could be a bridge to fixed route service. In one instance, we are proposing replacing a route that serves as a circulator that underperforms. We're also looking forward to piloting a microtransit service as early as later this year, and we appreciate the support of New York State DOT and the governor for including funding in the 2023 budget for the Innovative Transit Mobility Program that will help support initial project, similar to what Chris described they're looking to do in Kings Park. So as I mentioned earlier, the plan seeks to strengthen connections to Metro North. Recognizing that Metro North can be a more efficient option for many common trip origin and destination pairs, we saw the benefits of leveraging existing rail service and creating a conception of a complete county-wide network. Thus, we proposed fare reciprocity, which would allow passengers traveling entirely within Westchester to only pay a Beeline fare, or alternatively, pay only a Metro North fare, and for those traveling beyond Westchester to only pay a Metro North fare. This would provide, in theory, a more equitable solution for those going from, say, Peekskill to Yonkers, as it would especially help riders with low incomes that may not be able to afford higher Metro North fares and would save them significant amounts of time. While this is still an option we are keeping on the table, we thus far have not been able to obtain any commitments from the MTA to allow fare reciprocity to be implemented. So if it's not enacted, we'll have to make some adjustments to our plans that were developed with fare reciprocity in mind, and we're now working through those potential modifications, such as maintaining some of the express routes that were proposed for elimination potentially. Regardless of whether fare reciprocity comes to fruition, we're confident that the redesigned system will result in improved service, and we are very excited to move forward with this plan. But in order to do so, we'll need to work closely with our contracted operator to implement it, to be able to fully finalize routes based on operational matters that require their input. The timing of the redesign project is such that it has coincided with the procurement process for our next operating contract. That process has been lengthy and is culminating with proposals due coming this Monday. So while there is a light at the end of the tunnel, it will still be a number of months until we have a contract in place to enable us to begin to finalize details with the selected vendor. But in the meantime, we are continuing our planning efforts, as we are now about to have meetings with our member municipalities to discuss the finer details of how this redesign plan will impact their jurisdictions and stakeholders. For example, discussing bus stop locations where new stops are proposed and routings for deadhead operations are among the topics we look to discuss when we have these meetings. We have another UPWP project to support our implementation activities, including extensive public outreach that we plan to conduct. Our best estimate is that we'll be implementing this redesign in 2025, and I look forward to providing further updates as we proceed. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to any questions that you may have.
That was really great. Thank you, Craig. So I think there've been we've got several questions and comments for Putnam and for Suffolk County. And if there are others that would like to put comments or questions in for Westchester, that would be great. So I think, Stephanie, are you going to walk us through the comments and questions?
Yes. The first question was for Putnam County. Just a question of how reliable is the paratransit service in Putnam County?
Well, we all go through the triennial review process, and we're at 100% when it comes to reliability. Usually our rides are single rides because we're small, and so the booking is good, and you know, drop off delivery is good. Sometimes our problem is with people who are no-shows, who book a ride and we get there and then they're not there. The biggest issue with paratransit, to be frank, is and you saw it in the map of Patterson, that 3/4 of a mile boundary. Sometimes I get people that are a mile off of the route, and we can issue them a paratransit card, we can authorize them, but to explain to the public that it's only within 3/4 of a mile that we offer complimentary paratransit. So to that point, confusing to paratransit subscribers that I have a card and you should be able to come to get me, and they're calling from Putnam Valley or from Cold Spring, and we're sorry, but we're looking forward to the future where demand response may be part of that solution.
Thank you. Our next question is just a comment in Long Island, just always great to see an increase in bus ridership. And then again, for Suffolk County, any plan for microtransit on the North Fork?
Not at this time, but we are always, evaluating the potential for these services. We do have the S92 bus route, which runs from Orient Point through Riverhead to East Hampton, which is now our highest ridership route. So we know that there is definitely, the potential for ridership up there. Just when you get off of the main roads in the North Fork, it gets kind of sparse. But again, that could be one of the reasons why it should be served by a microtransit service, instead of a fixed route up there. So yes, it's definitely on our radar, but no implementation plans as of yet.
And a few more questions for Suffolk County. How does one request Suffolk Transit on demand, and how frequent is the service?
So Suffolk Transit on Demand, we have an app that is available, on the Apple and Google stores. If you don't have a smartphone, there is also a telephone number that you can call and make a reservation that way. The information is available on our website. There's a specific page for the Suffolk County Transit on Demand service. The app will, know whether you're in the service area or not, or the area where you're going to be picked up or request to be dropped off in. Once the new zones are active, they'll be available to book in the app. So as far as frequency, I mean, it's an on-demand service, so it's responsive to the requests that are in the area at the time. When you book, it will let you know when your trip is scheduled to arrive, and then you can accept that booking or not. And it's available now 7 days a week, and throughout the whole day, the whole service day. So it's really not how frequently it comes, but more, the type of responsiveness that's provided. Right now, we do have 4 vehicles serving the Southampton zone. We will be supplementing with another 4 vehicles for the new East Hampton zone, East Hampton/Montauk zone.
Thank
you.
I
hope that provided a little bit more information. Again, you could visit our website and see ways to book the on-demand service.
Thank you. There's also a comment about the grid network in general. For example, CTA, I guess the Chicago Transit, the grid network is very efficient. Others like Palm Tran coverage, there's lots of transfers, inefficient and frustrating. Just a general question, why aren't more agencies taking advantage of a grid system? It looks like Suffolk switched. So I think that's confirming that's what Suffolk's doing now. And then the question asks, the grid system, is it well supplemented with Uber, et cetera? Is transfer and coverage now obsolete because of the grid system? If you need me to clarify that, just let me know.
Yeah, I probably would want to clarify that just a little bit more. If you want to, ask the question, we have a dialogue about that.
Sure.
We did in general, we tried to incorporate as many, north-south routes as we can, as the county has strong east-west connections with the Long Island Railroad already, and they're also based on, the meanderings of some of the major thoroughfares. Like if you look at the 6 route and it travels along Veterans Memorial Highway, it's kind of a diagonal route. And we've incorporated a lot of these time transfers because of the need to connect people and help them continue along their journey without having to wait in between. If there are further questions regarding our change here, let me know if I can clarify that.
Great. We just got a response in the chat from the person who asked the question. Just said thank you. I think you covered it. Thank you so much. Yet more questions for you, Chris. Can the representative from Suffolk County explain the process for distributing the ridership survey and remaining engaged with constituents as an effort to refine transit services and satisfactorily address riders' needs?
We haven't yet finalized all of the details on the survey, but if you'd like more information about that, again, I would suggest visiting our website. We'll have a dedicated page towards that. There'll be representatives, the plan right now, is to have representatives at the major transfer points, and also riding routes, talking with individual riders, making sure people are aware that the survey is available through postings, and then the ability to complete it online, as well, to get all that information.
Great, thank you. Yet another question for you. With the service industry being prominent in communities like the North Fork of Long Island, would a later operating time on the weekends better serve restaurant workers? An example is like 8 p.m. would allow them to use the bus to get to work, but not get home after the restaurant closes. Any thoughts on that?
We may have to look into some of that stuff. We have expanded what we're doing out east, at least with the microtransit zone, the Southampton microtransit zone. It used to be a Monday through Friday, and it used to end earlier, so now it does go to 10 p.m. We are aware of these, later travel patterns by service workers, not only on the east end, but retail workers that may be along the 110 corridor or along Montauk Highway and the western part of the county. So while a fixed route may not be, fitting of that service, it may be covered by later hours if we're seeing that, there's a lot of bookings in the later hours of the service, the after 8 p.m.
Okay, thank you. And a question sort of about Rockland County. Any suggestions for encouraging Rockland County to reassess its public transit system?
Well, I'll just speak in general, like with what Westchester is going on. We've kind of had a similar timeline as Westchester, but as Craig said, they're working some things out with their operations contract, and we'll probably follow soon with their implementation of the redesign. But I'd say that undergoing a redesign is, if for Rockland, they have to address their, their metrics and see where their service has been going and decide, is providing the same service, the best use of funds, or, should we take another look at how we're providing the service? It may be a little bit different. I mean, when you compare some of the really smaller suburban systems like Rockland or Putnam compared to, the rest of the NYMTC region. Even Suffolk is kind of small in the region you compare it to Nassau, Westchester, and certainly New York City. So all of the regions or the counties have their own specific needs, but I'd say, looking into this is definitely something they should do, and they could take advantage of UPWP funding like we have to help, secure a consultant and take a look at their system.
Great, thank you.
Stephanie, if I could just jump in there. Hi, it's Jerry Bogas. So I just want to point out to Chris and to the questioner that Rockland County has used UPWP funds in the past to assess various parts of their system. They haven't taken exactly the same approach as Westchester and Suffolk have, but that they have a very healthy planning process for their transit system and for their roadways, and they've made good use of federal money for that.
Thank you, Jerry. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Rockland County? Well, here's a question for any of the presenters that feel comfortable answering it. Is there any indication of having induced switchover from single SOVs, single occupancy vehicles, to transit?
From Westchester's perspective, obviously, since we haven't implemented the plan yet, we haven't seen any. I think our hope is always that by having a stronger network and providing more convenient, reliable service, that it would attract some choice riders to the system. But I think, as I said, largely our system is really, for the most part, mostly serving people who are transit dependent, and I don't think that's going to necessarily change that much. But clearly, choice riders and diverting people from personal vehicles to buses and transit is always a goal of ours, for sure.
Thank you.
I'd say
And
it's a little early in the process for us to make those kind of determinations. We really have to, survey the ridership and see, how that is working out for them, if they're coming from single occupancy vehicles or if they're just, dependent riders like Craig had mentioned that are riding more, often now, or, for capturing other groups. But specifically to address people switching over from SOVs to transit, I think we'd have to, see how the trends develop a little bit longer. And, for Westchester, it's a really old, still kind of in the planning phase right now.
And I agree with all of what everybody has said, and I don't want to repeat it, but I think on some of the surveys, early surveys anyway, that we did, we find that it means people give up some of their independence, and they want the luxury of having their own vehicle to do what they do when they want to do it. Now, I think demand response is going to offer something else. Because it's really like an Uber model for public transit. And so what we might see is we might drive people in that direction. That's what we hope to learn during this pilot, so that we could expand it to all of Putnam County, really, in the near future. And as when John Tully gave the presentation, in our next solicitation, we'll use the data that we're collecting now to intelligently approach this in that way. And as Commissioner Barossa said just now too, we have to get back out and we have to do some more survey, more public outreach. And that's what we're going to be doing leading up to this pilot as well.
Thank you. We have a question for Westchester County. Can the Westchester County representative describe more about what fare reciprocity would look like and how Omni's rollout and Beeline and Metro North, how that coordination is being coordinated?
Sure, thank you for that question. I think the conception of fare reciprocity was really the idea that Metro North is such a major player in terms of transit within Westchester County. And given that we were looking at things in a more holistic manner, we thought that there was the potential to really view Metro North as a way to support better mobility and to allow people who, as I said, especially those who are going longer distances, to be able to have more convenient and faster service. Because let's face it, a local bus that has to traverse local roads is never going to be as fast as Metro North, especially if you're going between an origin destination pair that has more frequent service or is an express stop on Metro North. So the idea was that we would essentially have the ability to allow our passengers to ride Metro North for the same price as the Beeline bus system. The mechanics of how that was going to work hadn't necessarily been fully worked out, because this is really just the vision of ours. And part of it was because we knew that Omni was coming down the road, and Omni would offer much more flexibility and potential integration. At this point, as I'm sure most people are aware of, Omni has not made its way yet to the suburban systems such as Westchester County, though we are working on it, and we are making some progress working with MTA and Cubic on that. But the reality is that the Omni on Metro North is on a separate track from us, and until such point in time where we're able to really see how Omni is working for us and for Metro North, and how they would potentially be able to integrate, I think we are not going to be able to really provide any further detail. So that's something that we're looking forward to. And again, I can't say definitively whether fare reciprocity will actually proceed. It's something that we're still talking about, but we'll need buy-in from other agencies, and it's a question as to whether that's going to ultimately occur.
Great, thank you. And I think this next question is sort of for everyone. How does the redesign affect paratransit services?
All right, since I'm unmuted, I'll start it. And in our case, it would not really affect paratransit from the standpoint of we're still going to be providing our mandatory service within 3/4 of a mile of our fixed route service. And and Westchester has traditionally gone above and beyond that and provided paratransit service throughout our entire county as well. So we don't anticipate that changing. So even with potential microtransit coming online, it would still work the same way for us for the most part.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think we're going to learn a lot again in our pilot. But what we anticipate is we're going to be able to reach those people that we can't reach right now. So it will increase the ability for para riders because they're not just restricted to that 3/4 mile. And I think we're also going to learn that that'll be a benefit to us based on economies of scale for Putnam County. Current para riders who are within that 3/4 mile bubble probably won't see much of a difference, although it may become more convenient because they'll be able to use an app. But currently, para riders who are within the 3/4 mile call, make the appointment, we go pick them up, and we bring them to where they need to go.
And they share a ride.
And sometimes they share a ride, sometimes they don't. Usually not. Usually they're individual rides. Yeah.
Thank you. Chris, did you have anything?
Well, I could just add that, along with the later hours of the fixed route system, the paratransit has, as required, followed suit. So many people are happy with the later paratransit hours as well. So that's been a positive for, the paratransit ridership, from the redesign.
Great, thank you. And then I believe our last question is again for everyone. How are counties doing with transitioning to electric buses?
I'll keep going here from Suffolk. We're just now putting out our first bids for battery electric buses and charging infrastructure. We're looking to electrify 2 of our bus depots, 2 of our 6 bus depots here in the county. We're hoping to purchase around 25% of the fleet, which is about 40 battery electric buses over the next 2 to 3 years, and see how they operate. And then, that's the current plan in the county right now is to electrify. New York State has, also pushed the Suburban systems to electrify their fleets. So we're following along with that right now. I'll pass it over to one of the other counties. I know Westchester has some, right?
Yes, we have 6 at this point. We have a fleet of 325, and so far we have 6. We were looking to purchase some more as well, but really our main objective at this point is to fully electrify one of our 2 garages. So we're in the design phases of that, and that's really going to dictate the extent to which and speed to which we are going to be able to add electric fleet and put into service. So we do anticipate that we will be receiving, I think, 6 more over the course of the next year or so, but I need to confirm that, and anything that goes beyond that is still being worked on.
Thank you. We'll be wrapping up in a moment.
Just a quick comment in Putnam. We're really focused right now on transitioning to a couple of hybrid buses. We run very small buses. We're also going to be redesigning our entire system in the next couple of years, and we may not have 4 routes. We might end up with more demand response, and at that point, of course, we want to do everything that we can. We are looking to focus on everything climate smart and reducing our carbon footprint. And so as we're looking at our facility, Commissioner Barossa is also studying where are EV charging stations, what's the impact, how do we work that? And as we redevelop and reinvent the BART system, we will reassess how many buses we actually have. We might end up with just a single route. So we don't want to get too far ahead of us until we learn what we have to learn.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from the counties? We do have to wrap up. I see there's someone who's got their hand raised. If you would please put your question in the chat, that way we can get back to you as soon as possible. And we can respond via email. If there's anyone, any of the participants would like to offer their email for follow-up, we'd be happy to place them into the chat.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie. A robust discussion about suburban transit. Lots of exciting, as I mentioned at the beginning, innovation going on in this area. I did have several questions of my own that I had queued up if we didn't get a lot of questions in the chat, but no surprise, we got plenty because it's a topic that a lot of folks have interest in, and it's great to see all of these advances. So I want to thank our presenters for speaking with us again from Putnam, Westchester, and Suffolk counties. Really appreciate you taking the time, and for everyone that joined us, thank you again for participating, for calling in, for pulling us up. We will be doing another one of these soon, so please keep an eye on your LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and other pages for those notices. So in the meantime, I see that we've got something coming in. Yeah, please send those email addresses in and any particular information that you're looking for. We'll be happy to have our presenters get back to you. So thank you again to everyone for participating today, and have a great day.
Thanks, Adam.